Did you know that the largest land mammals on Earth are in grave danger of becoming extinct in the near future because of humans killing them for useless items? Everyone loved going to the zoo as a child, but could you imagine telling your grandkids or kids while at the zoo that the giant majestic creatures that they are seeing in the cages no longer exist in the wild? I think more should be being done to ensure the survival of endangered animals, including some of the largest and most iconic of them, such as rhinos and elephants. Elephants are some of the smartest animals on Earth. Along with humans and other primates, they are one of the few animals that can actually recognize themselves in mirrors, which takes much more cognitive ability than you might think. Elephants also, famously, have an amazing memory, and some scientists believe that they may experience more emotion than humans do. To put this into context, elephants have been videoed in the wild visibly mourning the death of a herd member and returning to the exact same spot of which the member died to mourn in years later. Here you can see a picture of elephants mourning the bones of a fallen herd member. Unfortunately, these scenes are becoming more common. Starting in the 1970s and 1980s, elephant populations began to decline drastically due to the high demand of their ivory and their tusks. According to worldwildlife.org, over a span of nearly 20 years, 100,000 elephants were being slaughtered for their tusks annually, and resulted in a decline of 75% in the world's population of elephants. Finally, in 1989, the Convention of International Trade of Endangered Species of Flora and Fauna, better known as CITES, banned the international trade of ivory. Over the following 18 years, elephant numbers began to slowly rise. But in the last several years, elephant populations have begun to decline once again, with estimated tens of thousands of elephants being killed in Africa alone. This is likely due to the high demand from countries such as China, Vietnam, and Japan for their tusks to be used as as ornaments. Out of all the species of elephant, the African savanna elephant, the African forest elephant, the Asian elephant, and the Borneo pygmy elephant, the African species have been hit the hardest because of their larger size, thus them having more ivory in their tusks. According to NationalGeographic.com, the average adult African elephant weighs 13,000 pounds and has only 22 pounds of ivory. So for every elephant being killed, only about 1,000th of it is being sold on the black market. You might be wondering why people, primarily from Africa, are killing so many elephants to get them to Asia. Well, according to phys.org, the average price per pound of elephant ivory is $960 US. And if you think the ivory problem is bad, the rhino horn problem, in most people's eyes now, is even worse. According to rhinos.org, in the last 2 years alone, 1/10 of all the rhinos in the world have been killed for their horns. Approximately 29,000 wild rhinos still exist today, and that's out of all the species, which include northern black rhinos, southern black rhinos, northern white rhinos, and southern white rhinos, the greater one-horned rhinoceros, the hairy rhinoceros, and the Javan rhinoceros. All the species of rhinoceros are critically endangered, except for the southern white rhinoceros, which is still endangered. And some are literally on the very brink of extinction. For example, there are only 58 Javan rhinos left in the world, and they can only be found in one national park on the island of Java in Indonesia. Another, much more alarming status is that the northern white rhino, which is extinct in the wild and has only 2 remaining species members in captivity, are unfortunately both female, and they are too old to be artificially inseminated. So sadly, this species is doomed for extinction. Here is a picture of the last two northern white rhinoceroses and their caretakers. As I said earlier, both are female and are too old to be impregnated by artificial insemination or cloning or anything like that. So once these two are gone, this entire species is gone. You might be wondering why rhinos are being slaughtered for their horns. And that problem can be attributed to the demand from countries such as China, but especially Vietnam and Burma. The only use for these horns, made of keratin, the same substance that's hair-like that makes up your fingernails, is to be ground up into medicine to treat anything from a common cold to being used as cancer treatment in ancient Chinese medicines. Studies have shown that the rhino horn medical treatments have zero, and I repeat, zero, proven effects to heal any sort of illness. The demand for rhino horn has grown so high and the rarity of obtaining a rhino horn so low that the price for a rhino horn is astounding. 1 pound of the substance of the rhino horn on the black market costs approximately $27,400 in the US currency, which is nearly the same black market price as 1 pound of cocaine and 1 pound of gold combined. With the average rhino horn weighing 9.5 pounds, one rhino horn is worth approximately the same amount as a brand new Lamborghini at about $250,000. So what is being done to save these species? Because of the unfortunate fact that these animals mostly live in poorer countries, only limited resources are being put to use. To try to stop the demand of ivory from elephants in particular, interestingly enough, people have begun excavating mammoth tusks from the permafrost in Siberia, Russia, to be sold into the Chinese market. Although mammoth tusk is much larger than elephants, you would think that they would make more of a profit. Resources are obviously very limited because it comes from an extinct species, and because they are thousands of years older, the more yellowish color that they obtain from being in the ground so long is typically found much less desirable. And recently, in Tanzania, law enforcement sent a very powerful message to the illegal trading underworld by burning approximately $100 million worth of elephant tusks that they had seized from poachers, to show them that these tusks will never make it to the market, and that all of the deceased parts of the elephant, including the tusks, will be returned to the African land from which they came. Here is a picture of the mounds of elephant tusks being burned. For the first time ever, recently, a rhino farm has been started in South Africa for people to raise and breed the most common of the rhino species, the southern white rhino, and to remove their horns to try to slow the killing of the rhinos. Many other countries have started to cut the horns off of wild rhinos to deter poachers as well. Although it sounds just like the poaching, rhino horns continuously grow throughout their lives, just like our fingernails. And if cut above the base of the horn where there are still nerves, the rhino does not feel anything. Unfortunately though, here is a picture of a rhino waking up from being asleep, like with tranquilizer, and its fresh cut off horns. You can see right kind of where the nerve would start. Okay. Unfortunately, rhinos only reproduce every 2 to 4 years, and their horns grow very, very slowly. And males cannot have their horns cut off because they are used to fight for females in the mating season. And for the wild rhinos, the small amount of horn that they have left is still, unfortunately, worth up to $50,000, which, in turn, is, to a poacher, is still worth taking the animal's life. To top it all off and to make things a little bit harder, insufficient anti-poaching, corruption, and weak law enforcement have allowed the illegal trade to continue. In conclusion, when I was in Tanzania, I was fortunate enough to glimpse 4 of the last 2,500 remaining northern black rhinos, and a 60-plus-year-old elephant with tusks that nearly touch the ground. I remember our guide telling us that they had permanent bodyguards to protect them at all times. On one hand, that fact made me feel relieved that they were being protected from poachers, but on the other hand, it made me feel sad that they needed such drastic measures to be protected. If you would like to help fight for the protection of these majestic creatures or other endangered species, please visit websites such as World Wildlife Fund to donate or find other ways to help. Thank you for your time.